First at 11, history made in our country this weekend after President Joe Biden announced he would end his presidential reelection campaign. The Democrats now without a presumptive presidential nominee less than 4 months before Election Day. Good morning, everyone. I'm Colton Bradford.
And I'm Melody Mendez. Thanks for being with us today. Look, after the president's endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris finds herself suddenly poised, right, to move up to the top of the Democratic Party ticket. But it is not a done deal. Far from it. There is no precedent set for this. There is no guidance in our Constitution. So we are left with many questions to answer. And we have team coverage for you this morning.
Alicia Palumbo will have more on what comes next for the Democrats in just a few minutes. But let's start with our Manoj Kwangwari and a recap on the president's decision to end a decades-long political career.
President Joe Biden announcing Sunday afternoon he will not be seeking re-election at a time when his campaign was planning fundraisers and events in the weeks ahead.
It was the right thing to do.
The same Democrats that supported Biden staying in the race now saying this could be a good thing.
More than half the country did not want either Biden or Trump to be the nominee.
Democrats now are going to be able to campaign on passing the torch to the next generation.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren also supporting the decision, and in a lengthy statement where she touted which she believes were Biden's largest accomplishments, creating over 15 million jobs, ending the war in Afghanistan, signing federal gun safety legislation, to name a few. She also threw support behind Kamala Harris, who now is poised to take over atop the ticket. Writing in part, quote, as a former prosecutor, she can press a forceful case against allowing Donald Trump to regain the White House.
Kamala Harris has to be our nominee. There should be no debate.
Joe Biden, who is 81 years old, made this decision just 2 weeks before the Democratic National Committee scheduled a virtual roll call vote to formally nominate him as the party's 2024 presidential candidate. Now, it should be noted President Joe Biden is the first sitting president to drop out of a presidential race since Lyndon B. Johnson. That was in 1968. The difference here, though, is that Johnson did so with 7 months to go in that election. Biden is making this decision with less than 4 months to go in this election. Reporting in Boston, Manoj Kwangwari, NBC 10 Boston.
All right, Manoj, thank you. Now, look, just minutes after he ended his re-election bid, he'd made a separate announcement, as we mentioned, supporting Vice President Kamala Harris to be the party's nominee. So let's take a look at the numbers here. A New York Times poll finds Harris trailing former President Trump by 2 percentage points on average, 48 to 46%. That is well within the 3.8% margin of error here. Also, though, a slight improvement from Biden's 44% where he was coming in.
Now, many Democrats are left wondering, is there more to come, or is Harris just a shoo-in? NBC 10's Alicia Palumbo continues our team coverage live in Boston with what comes next.
Good morning, Colton. Just because President Biden gave his endorsement to Vice President Kamala Harris does not necessarily mean that she gets the delegates that he won in his primaries, and they don't transfer over to her with the DNC just 4 weeks away. If most presidential campaigns are a marathon, this is definitely a sprint now, with a lot of hurdles for Vice President Kamala Harris to overcome as the new Democratic frontrunner.
We've all followed that narrative for a few years now, where the knock on her was she's not ready for prime time. Now, all of a sudden, she's potentially the party's nominee for president.
One major hurdle is money, but Harris's campaign says she raised more than $49 million in grassroots donations since President Biden ended his campaign and endorsed her on Sunday. Harris has also filed to take over the millions in donations to the Biden-Harris campaign. The next major hurdle is securing delegates. Delegates in several states, including New Hampshire, have already pledged their support for Harris.
Well, I think politically, at least in terms of the nomination, it should be a cakewalk. I think it's been reported every state chairman for the Democratic Party endorsed her yesterday as well.
But political strategists on both sides of the aisle seem to agree by waiting until late July to step aside, Biden and his campaign managers haven't given Harris much room to succeed.
She's smart and she's capable and she's qualified, but I don't think there's enough room to be able to turn around this race. And I think this is a setup.
I'm not sure if the timing is a little too late. But we'll see in the next, coming weeks how this unfolds for the Democrat. And I think for once, as a Republican, I'm happy to sit back and kind of watch their party in disarray.
Now, the DNC had previously planned to take a virtual vote on August 7th. That's the deadline to get the Democratic nominee for president on the ballot in Ohio. But it's unclear at this point whether that will happen. We're live in Boston. Alicia Palumbo, NBC 10 Boston.